So imagine having a virtual world with multiple nations. Each nation is tied to a specific blockchain, and one chain is populated by or human agents on the XRPL, and we might integrate the root network of Futureverse, and that nation will be populated by extraterrestrials, and we will have an ape
Wow.
nation where we have apes populating the world, and then those nations compete against each other. We can pull up statistics: who's doing the most e-commerce, who's doing the most building, where's the most volume. That's something that could be achieved relatively easily because it's integrating those chains, which isn't that hard, and most of the foundational technology from the 3D aspect, the browser is already there.
First light are shining bright, web page open to the light. Trade meme coins day and night, XRPL takes flight.
What's going on, crypto degens? We got another awesome episode of the Trident podcast, and today we have a very special guest. We have DS from X Vector. How are you doing, DS?
Well, as you can see, I'm like always tired, exhausted, but alive.
Yep, I hear you. It's been a little rough these last couple of days, especially last night. We had a really big dump in the markets, but we're here. We're gonna keep chugging on, and we're gonna keep building. So yeah, man, it's a pleasure for you to be on, and I'm really excited to talk to you about your project. But before we do, tell me a little bit more about you and kind of your crypto journey. How did this all start?
Well, like most people that weren't too deep into crypto, I actually finally had some time during COVID to look into blockchain technology and more specifically NFTs and what they could be. I've been in property development for quite a while, and it was to me mostly interesting as a deed of ownership, looking into how that could be applied in real world applications. And I read a lot, I learned a lot, and that's when I got interested in the whole thing. And then in a certain moment in time, I started investing in crypto. I purchased multiple assets on a daily basis, small amounts, about 30 different coins. Bitcoin, of course, and then some alts, XRP as well, definitely. And after a while, I had a friend of mine who was in contact as a student with Panos Mikras
Oh
from
yeah,
Hannover
finals.
Finance, and I reached out to him a couple of years ago, somewhere in August, if I'm not mistaken, and he was educating people, mostly focused about the XRPL ecosystem. It was right before the IOU craze started, and that's how I got into crypto deeper and more specifically the XRP ledger, of course.
Wow. Okay. And did you have development experience before then? Or was it just something that you came along
Absolutely.
with the territory?
Not. I've learned a lot over the past few years, and I'm still not claiming to be a developer. I still can't write nor read code, so I'm mostly the guy that has some ideas, and then we try to find the right people to execute on them.
Gotcha. Okay. So you said you were a real estate, you were either a real estate developer or just you were involved in real estate.
Well, we mostly did renovation projects, yeah.
Gotcha. And that's kind of how you transitioned over to crypto and more so the metaverse.
Yeah, initially it started out so after that contact with Panos and the IOUs kicking off on the XRP ledger, I actually got involved in the Xpunk community. I got quite a bit of Xpunks. I did a
Oh,
nice deal,
nice.
and I was for a long time one of their biggest holders. Um, and a couple of months later, I participated in at least 100 or maybe more projects on the XRPL. Not really. From an investing perspective, but just to make connections and to participate in those communities. And that's how it's evolved to Expector. Why the XRPL? Well, because it was mostly the community that I was very well connected to. Most people knew me by then, and it was an evident choice. I had an idea initially to do some things inside existing metaverses, and implementing business ideas, most of them related to property and property development inside the virtual world. And I remember very well that I traveled to Lisbon back then, and I met the guys from Xpunks who moved to Lisbon at that time.
Nice.
And we met in a hotel in the meeting room, and I showed them my IDs. I asked them if they wanted to become a part of the project, but of course, as you and some others that run projects know by now, once you run something like that, it's very hard to divide your attention. So they respectfully declined, but we stayed friends. We had our arguments over time, but we're still in very good contact. And that's when we kicked off. I think we started somewhere in April, May, 3 years ago, 2022. 5 weeks before Terra Luna went down, and we launched our IDO, and it became pretty successful. And then suddenly, of course, it hit me that we have, or that I had a big responsibility towards the people that became involved into the project, and we started looking into different metaverses and how to implement our IDs. Most of them weren't, or all of them weren't on the XRPL, so that was one hurdle to take. And we also realized that most of them are actually non-existent. Most of them are nice white papers or pitch decks or ideological, philosophical ideas on paper, but aren't actually up and running. And if you look at the most successful ones from a financial perspective, at least Decentraland and Sandbox, well, we thought that they weren't that good. From multiple aspects, technical aspects, also visual aspects. And over time, it grew all organically, because if you look at our first white paper, well, it hasn't got much to do with what we are doing now. And if you want to take a look at that, I think it's still somewhere online. Well, I think we've over-delivered 20,000 times, we intend to build this, and once our Genesis Agent NFT artist was a character artist using Unreal Engine with a big team, and he actually came up with the idea, why don't we start thinking about building this ourselves? And without too much prior knowledge, I of course said yes. I'm not a gambler at all. However, I tend to go all into things, and I said yes, despite many warnings of people that it would cost quite a lot of money and time and expertise. And luckily, over time, we were able to engage quite a few people with some knowledge. We had our former CTO, Neil, of course, that was focusing on the back end, which we use now as the account page. It's an Angular website where people can log in with multiple wallets, mainly focused, of course, on Zaman wallet and the XRPL at this stage. But we have many integrations already in the backend. Binance Smart Chain, Ape Chain. We can accept payments in Flare, HBAR, Ethereum, and but not all of that is already activated. Some of the features have been activated in the past, but we're now mainly focusing on the XRP ledger. As you know, I've been critical about the ecosystem over time. Most of that criticism was meant as constructive criticism. It hasn't been always received well, and that's probably because of my wording and my passion. But I think we contributed to the growth of the ecosystem, also supporting the ecosystem with infrastructure, being consistent, available as a DUNL validator. We have had full history notes as well over time. So I think that we were able to grow organically, as I've said, to be pretty successful. If you look at all our NFT collections combined, and you include the pre-sales of our land and our Genesis as NFTs that aren't directly recorded as NFT sales on Ledger because they were pre-sales. But if you take that in account and you look at the total combined volume, I think that we're responsible for somewhere over 15% of all NFT related volume in dollar value on the XRP Ledger. That's something that no project on any chain does by the way. So that's something that I'm proud of. And we see NFTs as something different. We see, I'm a big proponent of Animoca Brands and Yatsiu and his narrative about stakeholder capitalism, network effect, digital property rights. So we of course have our Genesis collection that could be considered more as a PFP collection, where you get free airdrops, discounts. We will of course never forget our first and early supporters. We have given away quite a bit to those holders as well over time, and that will always be like that. But I think that you should look into NFTs as containers of intellectual property, and by holding them or creating them yourselves, you become part of a network. You create value to that network, and you can actually, well, you create value, but you receive value. Most of the time, the sum of things is higher than well, it's 2 plus 2 is most of the time 5, you know. So you become a stakeholder, and I think that the evolution of coming from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism, where everybody becomes part of a community and owns assets in that community as NFTs and contributes to the value either by purchasing them, either by actually using them in verse, or by contributing by talking about it and promoting it. Well, that's something that is pretty interesting, because everybody can add value and everybody profits of that joint value creation as well. So NFTs at Expector are actually in-game assets, so you can either hold land, you can put a building on that land that is also represented by an NFT. You can have your avatar, which is your digital identity, and could be your digital reputation as well. We have the partnership with the Formula One team, where we have Alpine branded cars as NFTs, and you can actually drive them inside the metaverse. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And we approach the metaverse not really as a game, even though we're using Unreal Engine 5 for graphics. To me, still the best game engine in existence at this stage. But we see it more as the 3D internet. And one of our former employees, Bob Way, used to be a NASA software engineer in the 80s. He became Ripple employee number 2.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, and he looked at the early 90s. We didn't look at existing metaverses or metaverse platforms, and we didn't want to copy them. We actually went back to the architecture of the internet, and to explain it in simple words, well, our home world is like a search engine. It's a social platform where people meet up. You go through well, we sell advertisement space in the form of land plots. People can put nice facades on there. The bigger and the more pretty they are, the more likely that you will draw people's attention. You walk
Yep.
through. You walk through a doorway. The doorway actually acts as a hyperlink, and the inside of the building isn't necessarily confined to the outside dimensions. And with our EDK, and it's a bit technical, of course, but it's our environment development kit, people can actually create whatever they want inside their buildings. It can be an e-commerce, it can be an educational platform, it can be a private room, it can be a game, it can be anything, you know? And then we get to the most important part where we're focusing on now. That's actually the Builders Academy, where one of our people, Mattia, he's doing a great job. We were able to onboard close to 200 people at this stage, and those are all independent builders from Expector that are working on creating stuff for the metaverse. And one of the important things is that we take the top, well, we don't take the top-down approach, we take the grassroots approach, where we don't necessarily focus on partnerships with bigger brands and IP, but where we focus on smaller NFT projects, individuals that actually want to build. They can showcase their work inside the metaverse, and they will also be able to launch 3D assets through our native marketplace and actually monetize on these things. So it will create a big diversity of IDs. For NFT projects, also pretty interesting. We can provide instant utility for their NFTs, because they can create their own space for their community, and the room can be token gated for holders of those NFTs, for example.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack there. That's crazy.
Yeah, well,
So
it's always very hard, you know, if some people ask me explain it, and definitely if you need to
yeah,
create a pitch deck and explain in 8 pages what we're doing, well, Good luck with that. We've been struggling with that for quite a while. I think we're almost there. Yeah, well, and of course we have our expansion plans. We always said that we would never leave the XRP ledger, but I think it's very important to onboard more people, more end users. The low-hanging fruit are people that are already on blockchains.
Correct. Yeah.
Onboarding two people is more costly for sure. I think that we have been looking into some partnerships. We're in very good contact these days with Aaron McDonald from Futureverse and the Readyverse. They've got a huge investment from Ripple, and we're on very friendly terms lately, and we have very good discussions. So there's definitely some openings. We have been in very good discussions with Improbable. Improbable is the company in the UK that actually works for Yuga Labs and streams their other side. We have some synergies with ApeCoin DAO because they sponsor the BWT Alpine Formula One team, and we are official
Wow,
Metaverse
that's
of
awesome.
them. So we are currently working on integrating ApeChain as well, which is a layer 3 Arbitrum orbit chain. So yeah, multiple things coming together, and everything takes way more time than I want as well. It costs way more money than I could have expected, or maybe not. But it's a struggle. But we have been consistently building, and I've said a couple of times over the last few weeks to multiple people, you do not necessarily need to like me as a person to be able to look at what we have built and what we have generated and the volume and commitment that we have with the community, the excitement as well. So I think that that's a very important thing. People, including me, by the way, tend to be very emotional. Just look at the technology, look what's up and running, compare it to any other metaverse project on any chain, and I think you will realize that we have something very nice on the XRP ledger. Something, and it's not about me; it's about the team. That the team has realized something to be proud of, and it's also a very nice way to bring all the projects and all the communities together in a very nice environment.
Wow, that is amazing. Real quick, just want to address the audience. If you've gotten this far into the video, do me a big favor, leave a like and repost this on X so more people can watch this and give DS exposure, Expector exposure, and myself. But with that out of the way, yes, I know you've expressed that you're chain agnostic, and that's great because you want to get as much exposure to other chains as possible, and at the end of the day, you want to onboard as many clients as possible. On the metaverse side, it's kind of difficult to explain the metaverse to someone who's never experienced it at all, right? Like I had a lot of experience with Decentraland early on. I loved the experience, even though it was pixelated. It was early on. I saw so much potential, right? I saw people had plots of land. They built up, for example, they built up a studio and they would host events, and it was a really cool social. It was the only time I've been online and I felt a real social aspect of like, oh, I'm here and I'm communicating with other people and we're getting to do something together.
Yeah,
And again, it
it's
was pixelated.
and I'm not, well, one of the mistakes, I am a complete newbie, actually, strangely enough. So I'm not a gamer. The last time I really was into games was probably over 30 years ago, playing
Oh wow.
Sid Meier's Civilization and SimCity and other simulation games or tycoon games. But I was very keen on using Unreal Engine for visuals. However, most of the gamers, they don't really care about the visuals that much. However, I think if you want to be attractive for the general public, that some realism helps. And then regarding the omni-chain strategy, well, I think well, we have come up with a theory or with something on paper. I don't know if we will execute it or when, but it would be cool to have to leverage the competition between tribes and between blockchains, and to actually use that to benefit the project and to stimulate innovation and development. So imagine having a virtual world with multiple nations. Each nation is tied to a specific blockchain, and one chain is populated by or human agents on the XRPL, and we might integrate the root network of Futureverse, and that nation will be populated by extraterrestrials, and we will have an ape
Wow.
nation where where we have apes populating the world, and then those nations compete against each other. We can pull up statistics: who's doing the most e-commerce, who's doing the most building, where's the most volume. That's something that could be achieved relatively easily because it's integrating those chains, which isn't that hard, and most of the foundational technology from the 3D aspect, the browser is already there. So it's still a big idea that we have, but it's something that we could potentially integrate, and that could make things more interesting as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, later on, if that was to happen, we could even develop kind of in metaverse games. You know, people are very fanatical about their sports teams. We could have almost like a sports team where people show up and they represent their chain or their group or their city, and then we have these huge events. You know, it can be really interesting if it really develops out that way.
Competition is always nice, and I think that and collaboration is also nice. So I hope that we will be able to do some stuff with Futureverse in the very near future. I We have a very good contact, as I've said before, with the people at ApeCoin, and one of the builders over there, who is very, very, very well respected. He's actually working on a platform where you can have interoperable assets. So that means if you own an NFT as a 3D model, that you will be able to use it in Expector, but also in Otherside and in Nifty Island and so on. So we're in that pilot project, and those guys are working on that. So that would be very cool as well, to have actual interoperable assets where people can go from one world to another. There is not a metaverse. There is only the metaverse, and interoperability between those virtual worlds is something that is definitely something that we're looking forward to as well. And this is all about collaboration. And again, it takes time. It's way harder than anybody can imagine. But we're doing quite all right given the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, your popularity is definitely there. I'll tell you that.
Well, with some people not.
And so here's a question. I mean, for someone who's new coming into this, they just see Expector, they hear the hype, and they want to get ready. I mean, do you need an Expector 3D model to be able to walk around in the Expectorverse later on? What would someone need if they wanted to get started?
Well, you actually don't need anything. Everything is for free, and you can download it, and you can walk around at the town square with no assets from
Okay.
Expector. You can even do it without having a crypto wallet, just by providing your email address at this stage. But if you want to have the full experience, well, we have avatar NFTs that were available as a free mint for our holders and for some other project that we collaborated with. If you have one of those, all the worlds or more experiences will be unlocked. You will also be able to customize your avatar in game. Depending on the avatar you have, you will be able to pick different traits and so on. So it's all in the early stages, but I think that as a proof of concept, or I don't even think it's a minimum viable product. It's definitely a proof of concept or more, or beta, and it actually works. We do realize that there's still quite a bit of work to do, but there is, for example, some of our competitors have raised huge amounts of money. We are still mostly self-sustaining, and I have to say, one of those projects is also using Unreal Engine 5, and they're located in Dubai. I won't name them because I respect them a lot as well, but they've raised 60 million, and they started out about the same period of time than we did. And a couple of weeks ago,
Also on the XRPO?
no, 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 on another chain, yeah, on its
I
own.
think I know what you're talking about because I was an early investor in it. Would it happen to be what Star Atlas?
Star Atlas is on Solana. They're not
Yeah,
really a metaverse, but it's also very similar. I love what Star Atlas is doing.
I
Kudos to
loved it.
their documentation, their marketing. It's amazing. They, of course, have had very big hits after the FTX drama, because they had a big investment from there, and then Solana went down. But those guys are doing an amazing job. No, it's a different project.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
I asked our development team to actually take a look at it because we get quite a bit of criticism as well once in a while, and I really want to know what the competition is about and look into what they're doing. We actually have our metaverse up and running 24/7. Other sites is doing amazing stuff, but they have combined with improbable 1.5 billion available. So that's quite a big difference. I had a huge compliment from Yuga, by the way, or from people related to Yuga, where they said, well, we want you to build on Ape Chain, but we're a little bit, maybe we get some criticism because other site isn't always up and running yet. We just do showcases and stuff. So they actually gave me a huge compliment where they said that they saw us as some kind of competition, which we are absolutely not. But hearing that was nice, you know. Sorry, regarding the Metaverse project that I spoke about, I asked our developers to really take a deep dive in what they have after raising 60 million and building 3 years. And I don't have to read it out loud because I know the first line of our main C plus Unreal developer who is in Brazil. And he literally says they literally have dot 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 nothing dot 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 LOL. That's strange. Well, so if you and I know again, you know, compare other side, Futureverse, Decentraland, Sandbox, Everdome, Star Atlas. I think we've done a really great job given the time frame that we are actually building and with the resources that we actually have. And I'm very proud of that. And again, I'm just a crazy ID guy. I was lucky enough to be able to engage some fantastic team members. Over time, we most of the people, by the way, are outsourced. I didn't want to take the risk to actually have full-time employees without external serious investment. So most of those teams are independent companies. We have built a relationship over 2.5 years with them. It allows us to easily scale up and down, which is needed sometimes, you know. But they've done an amazing job, and it's thanks to them and those guys and their input that we were able to get where we are now.
Wow. Well, here's the question. I mean, I'm not very technical. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but what complications have you found integrating Unreal Engine 5 with the XRPL? I mean, how's that been? Has it been complicated? Has it been hard to learn or?
No, not really. No, well, everything is hard in what we're doing, but it's not that complicated. No, so we have created the backend actually functions as your. So we integrate blockchain for digital identity, ownership, and payments. It could be any blockchain theoretically, you know, because almost all chains do the same. Some are a little bit faster, some are a little bit cheaper, but the main thing, every blockchain can do that. And then we have our native marketplace, of course. That's similar to Bits and XRP Cafe. They are a little bit more ahead of the curve because we have been focusing on multiple things, but that facilitates all the API calls and the SDKs and everything for in-game transactions. So that's not a big issue. One thing that we have done, we could easily have used external companies that have those APIs and SDKs pre-built. Like there is Venly, a company in Belgium that got also 20 million and that are doing some cool things. We have Sequence that is definitely worth looking into. Those guys are closely related to the ApeCoin ecosystem as well. But we have built everything from scratch. So we have built everything ourselves. It makes that we own everything, that we know how the system works perfectly, that we can easily make changes ourselves. It also means that things take a little bit more time and are a little bit more expensive than getting prefabricated stuff from other companies. But you know, we've made a lot of choices, and some of them were good, some of them were bad. I've definitely learned a lot over the past 3 years in my journey. We've been scammed. We've hired people that for marketing that took our money and ran. Luckily, not too many. Only one, by the way. We have worked with influencers and during our sales, and we were pretty successful at marketing. But you know, now looking back at some things, I would definitely do things differently. Also, you know, lots of projects ask me to advise them. They offer tokens or equity. I always refuse. I don't want anything in return. And the only piece of advice I give them often is, are you sure you want to do this? Because once, and I know that you're involved in Drop as well to a certain extent, running a project, and that's something, once you have a coin or NFTs or whatever out, you have a community and you need to deal with all of those people, and 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 people or more. It's quite a lot. It becomes sometimes crowd management as well, and there's always somebody that isn't really happy with what you're doing, and your biggest friends or your closest friends can suddenly turn into your biggest enemies. And doing that almost 3 years, 24/7, that takes its toll. So I'm very glad that now we have some new founders that are fresh and very excited, and their communities that have their eyes on Expector as well. And I hope they will succeed, and I hope they will keep going strong, because it is way harder than most community members think. And people think that you can necessarily influence the price as well. What I've learned for sure is that development and investment and time spent on a project doesn't necessarily correlate with the price on the short term. But I do think, and I'm convinced, that the teams that are putting a lot of time and effort in what they're doing will win in the long run. And in the meantime, you have to deal with unhappy people as well, which is a little bit sad. However, I understand if prices go down, well, nobody wants the price to go down. However, the only thing that we can do as builders is actually trying to survive. That's the first thing, both physically and as a project, and then keep delivering and keep building and keep putting content out and actually showing progress in development. And I think that that's one of the things that is pretty interesting in Web3 as well, is that you're not building necessarily for a community, but you're building alongside or with the community. And one of the things regarding the stakeholder capitalism is that everybody that holds an asset or an NFT or whatever that is related to the project, well, they all have the possibility to become a marketeer of the project and to promote that project. And again, I'm not focusing on prices, but lots of crypto people, the only utility they care about is the price going up. Well, the price can go up by talking about the project that you're involved with. And 1,000 people can do way more than any project team, even if they have a lot of money, even if they have big marketing budgets and huge campaigns. There is nothing like the force of community. And that's something that lots of community members should realize one time. And that if you believe in a project, well, then you should work alongside the team to make it grow and to help it grow. And if you're not interested in a project anymore, then you should sell your assets and get out of it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've realized with just helping to run Drop, you're dealing with millions of different opinions, and you're never going to make them all happy. And whenever you say or do something, you're opening Pandora's box, because you're not going to be able to put it back in. You're always going to be criticized for something by someone. And there's a phrase that we have in crypto, which is "work for your bags," and it's true. I mean, if you're investing in something because you believe in it to some extent, and you can be a marketer, you can talk about your project, you can give exposure to your project, and like you said, there's nothing like a community, like the massive community, to really promote a project and get eyeballs on it, right? Because running a project is kind of a balancing act between development and marketing, development and attention. And some people go really heavy on development, and then nothing happens for years. And other people just go really heavy on marketing, and it just ends up being a pump and dump. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah, we were pretty successful, for example, over the years in selling our in-game items, and we have, as our teams need to be paid in fiat, which is a huge issue dealing with banks as well. If you want to transfer crypto into fiat and there are larger amounts, well, you can, if you don't believe me, you will find out. So that's something, I always wonder, what should I have done differently? Where did I go wrong? What mistakes did I make? And everybody makes mistakes. I definitely think that I was always very keen on building full throttle, which we did with a team of over 50 people most of the time, which is pretty expensive. Because my opinion was, well, when the market sentiment changes, I want to have something foundational ready that is better than most other projects. And I think we succeeded in doing that. However, it cost also a lot of stress. I saw lots of projects, OG projects, disappear or going almost silent over the past years. And now they pop back up and they are doing a relatively good job and they're recognized as OGs as well. So that's something that you have to take into consideration. If you build a lot, well, when market sentiment is down, nothing works. Nothing. When everybody's happy, you can sell probably shit in a shoebox and people will buy.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
absolutely right.
a weird market mechanic. If I wouldn't have paid all our employees to actually build something and I would have just held on to the XRP and sit back and relax over that time, I now would have 80 million dollar value in XRP. Now I have barely enough to keep everything going, but we actually have been building a product. And again, some people are critical. Some people have said that it's all smoke and mirrors and that we have nothing. Well, you can actually go to expector.com/beta, download it, connect your wallet, and see for yourself. And if you're still unhappy with visuals or with some mechanics or whatever, look at other projects on other chains and what they have. And then I will be happy to go in any debate with anybody and see what can be improved. But I think you will be pretty shocked of the difference between what we have and what others have. One of the things that you probably realize now as well, and this is also meant as constructive criticism. I've been pretty harsh on Ripple and on the ecosystem in general, and some diehard XRP holders still hate me for that, even though I see them forgive people from outside the ecosystem that always shat on XRP and now say sorry and that everything is okay. But we do need to think, you guys with Drop and with us with all the money, Expector and all the other projects, we should do two things. One is doing those spaces is super great, but like being in the same environment all the time with you and me and all the others that we all know, it's nice to get excited, but it doesn't bring in new people. So I would definitely recommend to jump into other spaces, be a reply guy, go to other chains and interact with those people, try to get them onboarded to the XRPL. And I don't really care if they buy Drop or ATM or Expector or whatever. Just bring them into the ecosystem. That's the first step, and then everything will level out. Another thing that we should be mindful of is that if we look at percentages of people that are already in the ecosystem, XRP holders, and then the success of memes or actual projects that are building, relatively spoken, it's still so small in compared to other chains. So
Extremely
another
small.
thing that we probably should consider is how will we be able to convince XRP holders to be interested in builders on the XRPL? And that's also something that I've seen this during the IOU craze. I've seen almost a copy paste now with the memes. I hope that we don't run into the same scenario. And lots of it depends not necessarily on Ripple, by the way, but on XRP. If XRP shoots up for whatever reason, well, then people will come and new blood will flow in. If that doesn't happen, well, then we have to find a way to convince people within the ecosystem to support real builders. And that's not that easy, apparently. But that's something that we should think about as project founders, as teams, and I know that you guys are involved in memes on XRP, and we're doing all the memes project. It's also very good as project founders to put our heads together and to ask different or difficult questions and to find solutions together with it, because I've tried multiple strategies. Most of them haven't worked, and so it's about how are we going to do this all together. And I think with the both initiatives, memes on XRP and all the memes, that it's something special. You know, people have questions about it, and I think that those alliances will and should dissolve over time. However, putting all the great minds together and starting to think about what we can do, not to pump our backs or pump or project backs, but to actually make changes to the ecosystem that benefit everybody. That's a tough question, and that's something that we should think about regardless what we do or what project we run. You know, I've said it multiple times with all the memes as well. I don't really care if you buy ATM or Drop or Army or whatever. I think that the Army is doing a great job. I told in the one space that I'm jealous that I didn't came up with the Army concept, you know.
Yeah,
Drop has been doing very successful on the marketing side. Ooga Booga, for example,
I love it.
they are streamlined. Like, I'm jealous. I don't have the manpower nor the energy to focus so much on what we're doing to get it to that point. Wow. Those are things that are very valuable, and those are things that should be supported by other communities. Yesterday, I was in a space and I saw Ovi very active. He brings so much energy in it, and
Yeah, he does.
they were minting some new project, and I got myself a couple of NFTs, something that I normally don't do anymore because I don't have time to focus on all of that. But yes, bringing back the excitement and then seeing somebody speak about another project, and suddenly we saw secondary markets and Expector picking up and generating sales. People really need to focus on trying to generate revenue. That's also a topic that has been very hard. You know, some people think, well, they've made a lot of money. Well, we spend a lot of money as well. Some people have no idea what gets used for what, you know. So that's something that projects should look into. And then at the level of Expector and some other projects, people have no idea how much investment it takes to actually build a product in technology. People don't know that most of the big companies don't make any revenue or aren't self-sustaining for years and years and years. We've been able to survive, so that's already something, you know. I was a little bit worried a short while ago, and I spoke to a good friend of mine that runs a huge project on another chain. I said, well, I'm like frustrated. Some people get millions without having built anything. Others build something and are able to sustain themselves to a certain degree, and then get criticism because they don't generate enough revenue to actually keep going full throttle. It's also, there are so many nuances that lots of people don't see or don't realize. That's something that we should do as well, trying to explain that and educate the community about that, you know. Get listed on an exchange. Well, everybody says, well, yeah, it's easy. Well, it's not that easy. Firstly.
No, it's not.
Secondly, I can promise you that's one piece of advice that I want to give to some of the all the meme or of the meme projects. Getting listed, if you have the money, that's one thing. Maintaining liquidity, market making. We've done this with Expector over the past 3 years. So we had 9, 10 exchange listings, 12 different pairs. It costs 15K a month only on market making. You have to
Yep.
have liquidity on both sides on 9 exchanges. It's hundreds of thousands. Sometimes when the market sentiment changes, you lose tens of thousands a day with market making. So, and then in the end, you see that getting or announcing a listing, well, it creates a lot of excitement. The price goes up the day itself. But if you look over time at natural or organic volume on those exchanges, it's close to nothing. Don't spend your money on it. Focus on the DEX. Focus on other things. It's my opinion, and it's my opinion because we've done that. And again, in the spirit of when the market kicks off, we have 9 exchange listings. Well, we voluntarily delisted on some of those exchanges because it only cost us money and it didn't bring any volume. It's not because you get listed on a decent tier 2 that people will buy. It's just not that. People think that getting listed on Binance or one of the other big players is easy. Well, it's not. Even with money, you need volume, you need this, you need that. Most of them don't even have XRPL integrated properly. It's those things should be explained to the community as well, so they realize why some things aren't that easy or why projects don't do things. And that's it. That's simple, Instead of spending 30K on the listing, I think there are way better ways to spend your money as a project. And I know it because I made that mistake, by the way.
We did the same thing with Drop early on. We were hard pressed to get listed on as many exchanges as possible, and we accomplished it. But we quickly found out one, it wasn't sustainable, and two, it was more of a really great PR stunt in the beginning, and then maybe there was a little bit of volume, but then the hype would die down, and it wasn't really worth it. And then again, we had to keep money in with the market makers, and it was getting expensive.
It's a very costly thing, and it's ongoing.
Extremely costly. Yeah, so we've taken a step back, and now we're focused more on kind of what you said, bringing in liquidity from other chains. Because if we don't do that, we're going to end up cannibalizing each other here on the XRPL. Need to bring new liquidity. So we're currently working with some ETH and Solana developers to try to get a bridge going between those chains and XRPL, and trying to generate just more liquidity and more interest on our chain. And of course, with all things going with geopolitics and XRP, kind of in the news, it's helping, and people definitely have eyeballs on the XRPL now, and that's starting to change, and I'm expecting a lot more liquidities coming. And like you said earlier, the percentage of liquidity or capital that's in XRPL memes in proportion to the market cap of XRP is a hair, right? It's nothing.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So the potential is there when you compare it to something like ADA. Right, ADA is not really known for meme points, but yet they have, I think they have one of their memes hit $1 billion at one point. So I was like, okay, well, there's definitely potential for us to be there. We just have to position ourselves first. And a lot of us, like you said, Uga, like yourself, like Drop, Army, we're very rich in culture already. Like we have the foundation there. It's just bringing in that liquidity so we can capitalize on it. So I'm excited. We just got to keep building.
Yeah, and people have to keep in mind, if it's ATM, Drop, Army, or any other project, I can promise you, one meme project hitting $1 billion market cap on the XRPL, what do you think will happen? It will bring
all the boats will rise.
Everybody. So I don't mind if you guys are hitting 1 billion before I do. The sooner the better, because it will benefit all of us. And from an expector perspective, we have many NFT collections circulating as in-game assets. All of them are relatively or very cheap at this stage. We have implemented 8.8% royalties on all of those collections. Imagine if all the land is minted, because we have sold all our land in pre-sale, people are able to mint the land through our website themselves. If you take all of our collections in account and we add them all up, and everything is minted, we will have close to 45,000 NFTs circulating on the XRPL, all relatively cheap entry point. We have a very, very good project if you compare us to any other project, not only on the XRPL, but on any chain. Imagine once trading gets going, imagine new people flowing in and the good projects will drop. And then we will have such a solid revenue base because, of course, the royalties are baked into the ledger, different than other chains and EVM chains, for example. So that's something that we are working towards too. And we want to expand our community by getting our NFTs distributed amongst as many people as possible, because they all become stakeholders. And once people get flow in, well, then if you hold 2 of each, well, sell 1, keep 1, and then you can try to recover your money. So that's something that is a strategy, but that's something that I can't change. People look at you and me and they say, well, bring people to the ledger. Well, I know only one entity that has the money that could be able to do so. And even with money, it's not that easy. I've learned that hard way going to ETC in Brussels right before summer. XRPL is like Vatican City, we have one very important player that everybody looks up to, and nobody really looks outside of the country, and the people from outside the country don't want to come into the country. And that's hopefully changing. And I think with hopefully the SEC case dropping, with the Trump administration, I'm pretty critical about President Trump, but I think for crypto and for lots of other things, I'm luckily not American, so what he does in the United States is none of my problem. I think it's a very interesting thing having Kennedy and and Musk next to him, Vance as well. So I try to avoid politics, but for crypto, I think it's definitely something good. We see law cases are getting dropped
Yep.
consistently.
Yep.
Also against Yuga Labs regarding NFTs considered to be securities. We have other cases, Coinbase and so on, that got dropped. You know, I'm a big proponent of a legal framework. However, we have all tried to, well, most of us have tried to be as legally compliant as possible. And some of us have spent quite a bit of money on lawyers to try to figure out what to do. Well, if there's no framework, nobody can tell you what to do, and you can spend tons in legal fees, and you can be fully okay in Switzerland, but you sell assets in America, and then it still is an issue. So now I hope that things change, and there are two options. Either there will be some kind of framework and everybody will be able to comply, and projects or companies that existed before can get regularized. Yeah, Jesus Christ. And be compliant. And if they have done something wrong before there was a framework, well, they will get pardoned or excused.
Exactly.
And then we have something to work with. However, without anything, it's really tricky. And we've been attacked as well. People have said, well, you have done this wrong or that wrong. I can promise you one thing: if we have done stuff wrong, every project founder is at risk of going to jail. Every project founder is at risk of getting shut down his project, because it has been a gray area for everybody. And I'm convinced that if you actually build stuff and deliver and don't take people's money and run, that you're probably will be all right. I've spoken to Weeks about that a couple of weeks ago, and I said, well, we regularly get threats from people that say, well, we'll do this or that. He says, we get daily emails from people that claim that we have done something wrong and that the FBI is informed in this. I think that that's showing, well, consistently showing up. People know your identity to a certain degree. Also something that you
Correct.
have to be careful about, because I've been pretty open, but I get death threats from people, and some people distribute my home address and all that stuff. That's pretty worrying sometimes. So be careful with doxing, but and then showing that you actually deliver and build stuff, and I don't know. I think that's the most important thing, and I hope that with current the current politics, that things will change, and for the better, and that people that have good intentions can actually go to some government agency or to a lawyer and ask, what can we do, what can't we do?
Yeah. Over the course of this year, I'm pretty positive we're going to have clear road of what's compliant and what's not in crypto. But yeah, I'm very optimistic. I think we're going to have some really cool stuff coming this year that's going to give a lot of leeway to crypto projects to say, okay, we can start building now with certainty, that's the biggest thing against anything. Uncertainty is what kills markets. It what kills projects. Uncertainty is the biggest obstacle for a lot of people.
You know, if you wanted to follow every single rule, well, then you had a competitive disadvantage because nobody else did it. And that projects operating from some nice sunny island in the Caribbean, and they do whatever they want, you know. So yeah, let's see how that goes. I'm pretty optimistic on that respect, and let's hope that we have something to work with.
Okay, so quick question going towards the land of Expector. I know we have different cities. We have a beach city, we have New York, we have Tokyo. I want to hear from what you've seen, what's your favorite? Where you have your gems in?
I think that, well, it's, nobody knows. I know that we will pick the regions to go live, and that we will probably ask community feedback. Marina City is live. Buildings have been almost sold out, the prefabricated buildings. We are working on actually getting those buildings inside the world, like we have with the cars, that people that own the buildings can actually put them on their land. Initially, we will do it manually, and there should be an automated system in the very near future. That's something that will probably happen over the next few weeks. The next region that will go live is New York City, and we have We are in contact with a couple of people that consistently have been buying real estate, virtual real estate in New York City. I can't say which region exactly, but they have big plans. They have shown stuff that they're working on. So I think and it will go live one by one, also depending on funding and on how we can keep going, But yeah, I think that definitely Marina City, New York City, Beach City also sounds really nice, and I think that we can expect a lot from Cyberpunk City and Tokyo as well.
I'm excited for Cyberpunk City. I'm a big fan of Cyberpunk, so I'll probably be seeing if I can purchase some land over there. Okay, so I want to shift gears here and get your take on something. There is a phrase, a term that has been thrown around recently with the advancement of AI and robotics. I mean, it's pretty clear to see the next 10, 15 years are going to be very different. Right? It's going to change our lives a lot. And with that, kind of ties into the metaverse because there's this term being thrown around called the post-labor economy, right? The idea is as AI and robotics takes over more of the workforce, a lot of us are going to be left without jobs, and a lot of us are going to be left with a lot of free time. And if we reach a world where there's abundance of a lot of things, and we don't know what to do with our time, and the metaverse has been a proposed idea where a lot of us are going to be spending our time, whether it's socializing or doing business or whatever, what have you. What's kind of your take on that? And do you think that's a reality of what might look like in the next 15, 20 years?
Well, if people have more spare time, they will find other things to entertain themselves. And again, I'm not a big gamer, but I'm having a lot of fun while being in the virtual world. And why did Zuckerberg spend 10, 12 billion on Metaverse? Well, because he knows that it's the end of social platforms as like Facebook, So I don't have to believe me. Zuckerberg, he will probably know better than me. So if he spends those amounts of money, that's definitely something that you need to take into consideration. I think that from a social perspective, interacting in 3D, initially probably on 2D screens, and next step in virtual reality will be something that's unavoidable. And then, there is an aspect of finance as well. By creating stuff and holding those assets as NFTs, you will be able to get on board to the Access Builders Academy. We have tutorials, we have documentation, we have a dedicated Discord channel with all the other builders in where you can exchange experiences. It's time to actually get into that and to learn some skills and to be able to develop stuff. Because if you are imagine you being the first one on YouTube.
That's crazy.
It's an opportunity where you can be amongst the first people in a 24/7 online virtual world that offers you the possibility to not only give exposure to what you're doing, to create your own community inside that world, and to monetize on that. I don't know. Some people don't get it. They say, "Oh, it's just a game," or is it? I don't know. There is a very interesting report from McKinsey. If you go to the McKinsey website, it's called Value Creation in the Metaverse. You can download the PDF for free. I can send it to you so you can pin it.
Absolutely.
Provide it to your listeners as well. 75-page document. It's pretty interesting, because if you think that this won't be very big and that this is not a big business and won't make any money, then you're wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I had some experience with Decentraland, so I saw the potential. But I speak to a lot of people, and I consider them very intelligent people in the space. And when I mentioned the metaverse, they're like, "Oh, that's a nothing burger. That's not going to be anything." And I was like, "What?"
I also think that lots of people have that feeling because of the past bull run, The past bull run, Metaverse was one of the big topics, and lots of people have invested in Metaverse projects, not only VCs that have spent probably hundreds of millions or billions, also smaller investors that have purchased land, other side deeds, by the way, 100,000 deeds at I think $4,000 each.
Wow.
And of course the price went down because everything went down. It doesn't mean that it's shit, but
Yeah,
it went down. Something that nobody can help. We have our things up and running. I don't know. I really, I never tell people to invest in what we're building. Take a look at it, and if you like it, participate. And you don't necessarily have to participate in a monetary way. You can also just become part of a community and
correct.
some excitement and do whatever you want. You're not obliged to do anything. I don't want to deal with people that invest $100 and then the price goes down by 3% and suddenly somebody wants to kill you because they lost $3. But it's about technology, and in the long run, I've spoken to a very well-known guy on the XRPL, and he kept saying, "Yeah, but expector price is not going up. It's not going up, and that other project, the price is going up." Yeah, well, but what are they doing? Nobody fucking knows. Nobody cares either because the price is going up. I can perfectly explain to you what we are building, what foundation we have, where the monetization will be, what the sustainability of the project is, what the advantages are. It might take a little bit of time for people to realize it.
Yeah. I would encourage everybody who's in the space, even if you're not fond of the metaverse, to at least investigate it. Because I do think it has the potential to be an industry disruptor and to really change the way people socialize on the internet. So at the very least, look into the metaverse and just have a concept, have a overall general concept of how it works and what you can do on there. Because it's definitely going to be pretty big if done correct.
And if you do that, compare other metaverse projects to the one that you investigate or prefer without saying any names, and look at what's actually there. Make the comparison and judge for yourself. You don't have to believe me. Definitely don't believe me. Do your own research.
Yeah. All right. So one last thing before I end it, I do want to do a little word association game. So I'm just going to give you a word, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, and we'll end it there. Here we go. First one, Unreal Engine 5.
Best game engine.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
David Schwartz.
I think you guys coined this term. I might be incorrect, but fidgelity or fidgetal.
Phygital, well, yeah, it's a
Phygital.
combination of. It's not really us that invented it, but it's a combination of physical and digital, where you get some kind of connection between a physical asset and a digital one. It could be an NFT that represents an asset in the metaverse, for example, but also exists in real life. Or it could be an artwork from Johnny Lawrence, for example, where you buy the NFT and get the physical piece as well. There are multiple definitions of phygital depending on the source.
Okay. Casino.
Daniel Keller.
All
He's a
right.
very good friend of mine, and I'm not a gambler at all. I don't. But yeah, Daniel. Casino is Daniel.
Okay. David Schwartz.
There was a tweet that he did a year ago or 2 years ago at Apex where he said that I was his new best friend. I highly doubt
Yes, I
that's
saw
the
that.
case. But I was very happy with the post, of course. So David Schwartz, best friend.
Whether it was sarcastic or not, you're gonna take it. Okay. Market maker.
Expensive.
Expensive. Yep. All right. Awesome. So that's pretty much it. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to mention, you want to talk about before we end it here?
No, I think we had a pretty interesting discussion, and I also wanted to
We
make
did.
it not too much about Expector or anything. I really think that we all should think about how can we improve the ecosystem for everybody, and that we should be able to ask difficult questions, even in public, and respectfully discuss those topics and try to come up with solutions that benefit everybody.
I couldn't agree more. I really appreciate you coming on. We had an amazing conversation, and I really hope to have you back on someday, and we can talk more about developments with Expector and just what's going on in the space in general.
One more thing, Jaime or Jamie.
Yeah.
Project founders often suffer more than people realize. Be kind in general, and for other founders, make sure to connect with each other. jump on calls. I have regular calls with Wietse, with Daniel, with Archer from XP Mark, where we ventilate. And most of those conversations are intended to be regarding business, but they end up being therapeutical. Do that because, sometimes people get knocked down and they never stand up again. And it's something that we should take into consideration. Mental health is crucial, not only for founders, also for potential investors. So for people that do want to spend money, don't use money that you can't miss.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of us take a beating. Sometimes we're developing, we're working really hard to build something, and we get an army of negative comments, and then price goes down, and it's hard to deal with. But I agree with you 100%. We should talk to each other and just express how we're feeling.
Thank you for having me, by the way.
Absolutely. What's your handle on Twitter? Or on X, so people can go ahead and follow you.
So it expect from Expector DS, so expect DS. But if you
Yes.
go to the Expector profile, Expector with an A, you will find me as well.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. It was a huge, it was an amazing podcast, and we had some really cool discussions, and hope to have you back on. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.